that sandwich any good? Well, I mean, it's all right. Why'd you do that to my sandwich? I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
My sandwich is failures.
Anyway, I made you a full superior one. Guess I'll see if it's any better. Wait a second. Why is there a Game Boy game on my food? Well, he's gone. That makes no sense. I guess I'll just review it then.
So Nicktoons Unite. It's an alright 4-player beat 'em up game for the time, but as you can see, this is a review of the GBA version. Like most of the licensed console games at the time, this game had a version for the GBA. And as we all know, these handheld ports were always great, weren't they? Okay, I'm not beating around the bush here. Handheld ports were infamous for generally being bad overall, especially for the caching games that the video game industry crams out. It was very rare that one of these ports were actually good, so most experienced players tended to stay away from these. This version has very little similarities from the console version, if any, but I'll just start with the story. It is told using generic stills of the characters on random backgrounds, with text on the bottom of the screen.
You know, it's really nice to be reminded of Donkey Kong 5 when you first play a game. It's a really good first impression to have.
About the plot itself, it's identical to the console game. Jimmy Neutron invented a projector that allows him to open portals to other dimensions, but as it turns out, Professor Calamitous has been spying on him and stealing his inventions.
You know, for a boy genius, Jimmy Neutron's pretty inept.
So Calamitous uses the projector that probably had a steal me sign on it, and uses it to gather a group of villains from other Nick shows. Then the fearsome foursome, yes, it actually says that, create a doomsday device fueled by the power of each dimension, and they use it to conquer the universe. Then Jimmy, after noticing this...
Wait, are you trying to tell me a projector was stolen, an evil organization was formed, and they conquered the Omniverse, all without Jimmy noticing? Is he really that idiotic? Either way, this makes no sense!
So Jimmy recruits his own super team, using another projector built when the plot wasn't looking. And now they go into their own dimensions to stop the villains from draining the energy from the worlds. So we start in Danny Phantom's world, as indicated by his face in the corner. There were a total of 4 worlds in this game, each with 2 levels in a boss fight. If you're thinking this game is short, you'd be right.
Alright, enough menus. Time for some world-saving action. The SpongeBob Danny, you look a bit, off.
They seem to have gone for a sort of 3D look, which I can appreciate them for trying, but it ended up looking worse than if they just went 2D. The character model that appears the most normal is Jimmy. You know, it's like 13 pixels big. Danny, on the other hand, looks like a DeviantArt version of himself. The enemies somehow look worse than the SpongeBob model. Aside from the 2D ones, which look fine for the most part, but someone in the animation department got lazy and allowed some hiccups to happen. Like if you spam shooting as Danny, he'll do a fairly impressive 1-foot hop around the stage. As for the controls, they're pretty standard for this type of game. You can press B to attack, L to switch characters, L to activate a character's specific move. All the projectile attacks can fire in 8 directions. Timmy Turner, rather than having a projectile attack, has a garbage short-range burst that allows you to completely stop in your tracks to use. And Jimmy Neutron's attack freezes the enemies that don't appear from portals. Back to the gameplay. The goal of each stage is to collect 4 chips while destroying 3 enemy portals in order to make the portal at the end of the stage appear, allowing you to move on to the next level. You also throw in a switch puzzles throughout the level to keep you from abandoning your partner. There also exists a character swap machine in case you need a specific character's ability in the stage. So here's a portal right here. Okay, let's destroy it. What? My bullets aren't hitting the portal. Oh, I have to be hitting the portal in a very specific spot, which is inconsistent between portals. Plus Timmy can't even hit them with his attack, even though he's heavily hinted toward him being able to, except for when the game decides he can.
You'd think, since it's an integral part of the game, they might have made sure it at least worked. May I remind you, we're still in the first level of the game.
Not surprisingly, some of the enemy placements are annoying. The giant rat things are sometimes placed in a way to back you in the corner to do change shots, not providing knockback. Also, the flying ghosts spawn off and it can gang up on you easily. I appreciate that the first level makes use of the character's ability in order to make you learn them right off the bat. Okay, so whatever, we passed the first level. On to Fenton Labs. This one is just fly up area with Timmy, hit switch, use Danny to ghost through walls, hit switch, repeat. I don't know why Danny has to break into his own family lab. He could just ghost zone through the whole thing. Or fine, it's what Timmy abuses fairy powers. This level has 2 main flaws. 1. This level's long and repetitive nature makes it really boring. 2. If you miss the first chip, which is very easy, you have to backtrack through the whole level once you reach the end and realize that you missed one. So that stage is being now. Time for the first boss fight. The strategy the developers intended was that the player shoots the boss, then a corner of the boss appears, and you have to destroy it to continue doing damage to the boss. after doing that about 3 times to defeat the boss. There were also additional platforms around the area in case you want to get a better angle at the boss, which would be nice if only you couldn't just jump and spam the shoot button until you win. Even if you die, the boss retains all the damage you did to it. To be fair, this is the first of the game, so it wasn't exactly intended to be hard. The next world we enter is SpongeBob's world, where the only thing worth mentioning is that this world introduces portals you can use to teleport around the stages. Also, Jimmy gives the characters in-game the air gum from that one episode.
This is a universe where they can breathe in space without needing a helmet, and yet they need a special gum to breathe underwater. Just wanted to point that out.
I gotta say, this definitely looks like a SpongeBob world. Unlike Danny's world, which is just generic suburbia, this world shows off how whoever did the art can do half-decent versions of the worlds. Even if the 3D is still out of place and the majority of the assets look like they've been ripped from other SpongeBob games, this world differs in the gameplay a little as well. The levels are organized in a more wide open design rather than the tight corridors of Danny's world. The teleporters I mentioned earlier are also a missed potential. They are mostly used for pointless switch puzzles.
I wish they didn't have a level that's just a giant switch maze. That would have been awful.
Naturally being SpongeBob's world, they use this ability more in this world, but mostly in the first level. Besides that, it's the same character that can fly and Danny combo for the rest of the gameplay. Time for the boss of this world. The previous level had Jimmy using his neutronic sizifier to shrink themselves in order to pass for the goods. Then in the boss's cutscene, he used the same device to go back into normal size, but Plankton gets caught in the beam, going him to be double his size. Aside from that, the boss is sort of similar from the last one, because it still has the shoot the boss to enemy spawns and kill it strategy that the first boss did. The only real difference is that rather than having a clone, it spawns a small wave of enemies that gradually increases in size with the amount of damage done to the boss. Despite the similarities, I did find the second boss more enjoyable than the first.
Now this is the point where you expect me to go in the next world and go into a cycle of what's different in that world, but to be honest, that would just get repetitive, so let's just move on to the final boss.
Unsurprisingly, this game uses a password system, most of which being references to the different Nick shows that the characters belong to. Why am I mentioning this? Because the password for the final boss is Skylark. What can I say? Developers must have been a fan of shiny teeth. So our developers have finally made it to the Doomsday device. The only thing standing in their way is the team of supervillains.
Okay, I'd like for you to imagine the most lazy, uninspired final boss possible. That's what they did.
Yes, this game decided to make its final boss just a boss rush mode, with very minor differences. Like how the Crockett boss, the original had him hiding in lockers, so we could predict who he was going to attack. While this fight just makes him come out of random portals. The only other difference I noticed is that between each boss, you have to shoot Calamitous a bit to damage him.
So you have to shoot a boss, to shoot a boss, to shoot an enemy again, to shoot a boss. That doesn't sound drawn out at all.
Just to make it a bit more annoying, the sub-bosses each take 4 hits to defeat. If this game didn't keep all the damage you did to the bosses, this fight might actually be annoying. But as it is, it's not really that challenging, even if it's the final boss. So after defeating the boss, there's a cutscene where the villains say that even though they're defeated, the team will never disable the Doomsday device, which gets the team worried. But they notice that the machine has a shut-off switch. It ends up working and the team saves the day.
When you don't know how to end the plot, just pull out some random plot point out of nowhere. No one will notice.
So anyway, Jimmy gives the crew some interdimensional communicators just to set up sequels, and they part ways. With the end credits rolling, the game is over.
So you may be wondering how I feel about this game. To be honest, it's fine.
I do know that this game was just made to sell copies to children that wanted the console game, and I did give this game a lot of criticism. But to be honest, it's just nothing particularly special. It's not like I didn't enjoy the game, it's alright in very small doses, like a code trip or something. There's also very few catchy tunes in the soundtrack here and there. Overall, it's just another average handheld port of a console game. I wouldn't particularly recommend it for anyone, but it's dirt cheap, so it's really up for you to decide.
Now, I have to go catch the person that stole my sandwich.